Welcome back to Happy Fun Times at Hitogata Village. You here, Ohina? Meguri asked, poking her head in from the hallway. Yes, please come in. Meguri entered the room, responding to Karen's invitation. Oh, you're here too, young mistress? Yes. You always just seems kind of like, I don't want to be here, leave me alone. What are you guys up to? Cloths of many colors were spread out on the floor. We're looking at materials to use to make new clothes for spring. Oh, that sounds nice. Are you going to wear them too, young mistress? I'm just watching. These patterns don't seem like they'd suit kimonos. You muttered, holding some flowery cloth. I think Western clothes would suit you, young mistress. You should try some on sometime. The uniform I wear all the time counts as Western clothes, doesn't it? You're always wearing a kimono, well, that's not Western clothing. Well, I guess so, but it's completely different. I think this fabric would be nice for a shawl, though. Then, do you want to make one? Karen pushed her sewing tools toward you. Both you and Ohina are good at sewing. We all learned in class, didn't we? I was never good at it. I could never make anything the same width. You're too impatient, Goriko. Karen laughed. Oh, that's right, I have something special today. Karen brought out a magazine excitedly. Oh yeah, I got this from Tokyo. And it's probably like an issue from months ago or something. It's already outdated. Oh, it's the latest issue of Ladies' World. Okay, well maybe I'm wrong. I had my father buy it from me on his way back from Toyama. Wow, I'm surprised your dad bought it, considering what's inside and all. Well, I only told him the name of the magazine, but we probably shouldn't read it here, so let's go to my room. Oh god, what's inside? It's one of those teen girl magazines, so it's probably like shirtless dudes. Right. The three tidied up the cloth lying around and headed to Karen's room. The magazine Ladies' World was aimed at young ladies of the current generation. Its contents included things like personal advice, beauty tips, and love advice. It even contained romance novels with such illustrations that some might think it's scandalous for young girls to be reading the magazine so happily. Yeah, so it is pretty much a teen girl magazine. Whoa! Meguri gasped when she saw the illustration of a man and a woman kissing on the open page. Oh, that's a little bit too lewd. It's a little bit too lewd for me, fam. Slipping of the tongue, huh? Well, that's one way to put it. You pointed out coolly. Stop this, Toro-sama! The moon is watching us! Karen read an excerpt aloud with some dramatic gestures, and Meguri and you burst out laughing. Hey, Ohina, that's too much. Don't you think it should be more erotic? Wow. You as the one who's kind of like, this isn't erotic enough. Oh, come on. It would be too embarrassing to do it seriously. I wonder if we'll do things like this someday. Just kind of surprised you haven't already. With whom? I mean, they do live in a small village, so I guess they don't really have a lot of opportunities to do stuff like that. Huh? Well, yeah, we'd need someone else, but... Meguri blushed. Like, the officer or something. Ew. I guess she likes older men. Takeyama-san may be an officer, but he doesn't seem that dependable, so I don't think so. All the young people here go to the cities to work, so there aren't that many options to choose from. Yeah, well, you've got Nao-chan, don't you, young mistress? Nao-chan's got nothing to do with this. You averted her eyes. Come to think of it, I heard the Kuriyas were getting some visitors from Tokyo. All the way out to the boonies from Tokyo? I heard something about recovering from an illness, and I think it's a girl around the same age as us. Maybe she'd also like to read teen girl magazines with you. What kind of girl? Yu's gaze returned. Oh, worried that your Nao-chan will be stolen from you? I told you, that's not it. She looked away again. Oh, Yu seems to be better at hiding her embarrassment. Maybe that's just because she's like... I feel like she's the kudere archetype. At least she kind of comes off that way. Nanako-san said she was a quiet city girl. I see. So something like the young mistress? I'm not a city girl, you know. Yu dropped her eyes to the magazine as if ending the conversation. And I guess the girl's brother came with her too. Is he a city kid too? Nanako-san said something about him having glasses and the look of an intellectual. Uh-huh. Meguri looked down at the magazine Yu was reading, apparently losing interest. It says, how to dress to win his heart. Meguri read the title of the article aloud. Open your collar, though not enough to be indecent, to draw out your feminine charm. So it says, young mistress. Why me? 'Cause you're always in Japanese clothes, and it's sexy to open them up a bit. Meguri's hands reached toward Yu's collar. Uh-oh. Hey! Yu yelped when Meguri touched the nape of her neck. What's going on? Stop, Guriko! You may say stop, but I know you like it, making those sexy noises. This is a little bit uncomfortable. Wait! Oh my god. What's going on? The maid's just like, there's something indecent's happening in here. I must investigate. The sliding door opened noisily and Yuka flew into the room. Huh? Yuka froze when she saw Meguri on top of Yu. The latter's clothes disheveled. Oh god. Oh, Yuka-san. Meguri sat back up and Yu fixed her collar. Jesus Christ. What's going on in here? What's going on in here? I want explanations now. What are you doing? Good question. Karen tilted her head. I brought you some tea. Yuka returned to the hall for a moment and came back in carrying a plate with some teacups and a small teapot on it. Won't you join us, Yuka-san? Karen readied another cushion. No, Oh, you can take a break, can't you? Meguri took Yuka's hand and pulled her closer. I suppose. Then please excuse me, she said. Would you like to read this to Yuka-san? Yu held out the magazine to Yuka. Yuka flipped casually through the magazine, then stiffened when she saw the illustration. Yeah, they're naked. Oh. Okay, for a second I thought they actually might have been. These are Western clothes that have the back part open. I'm wondering what kind of clothes those are. Clothes that have the back part open. But this is so improper. I don't think this is right. This is what's fashionable nowadays. I can't believe that. Yuka turned to another page, flustered. You should read more proper stories. Proper, huh? Then how about that page, Yuka-san? Huh? The proper way to masturbate? Oh my god, why? Why is there an article about that? What? What does masturbate mean? Can we please not go into this topic? I wonder. Meguri smirked at Karen after her outburst. Man, she must be really sheltered if she doesn't know about that. I don't know. It means chewing, doesn't it? Okay, wow. They're all really sheltered. That's masticate. Do you want to know, Yuka-san? Well, I suppose. It's a little frustrating knowing that you don't know something. Oh no. Then you should ask Ohina, since she seems to know. Hey, Guriko, I said it means chewing. I was just joking, jeez. Meguri threw her arms around Karen. Ah! You're so cute when you're flustered. I just can't help teasing you. Where are you touching? Oh my god. This is just going in a direction I'm not sure I like. Guriko would be classified as an S. See, it says right here in the magazine. What's an S? What the term now means sadist. Oh god. S refers to lesbians before the war. Well, either that or bisexual, because we know that she has a crush on Ayato, I believe. You flipped through the magazine and showed Yuka. Cut that out and help me already. That was such a pointless scene. It's like, hey, a bunch of girls reading a teen girl magazine and having fun shenanigans. I mean, I guess it's just, you know, trying to get us prepared for, you know, the darker aspects of the story that are to come. Chizuru walked over the previous night's fresh snow. Her feet sunk in with each step, and a trail of footsteps soon followed her. This sensation wasn't one she felt often in Tokyo. She spun around and held up the camera in her hands. Yeah, she did mention how she used to like to do photography. A broad snowscape. She adjusted the aperture and snapped the shutter again. This was her first time photographing the snowy landscape, so she wasn't quite sure what she was doing yet. In fact, she'd only just received this camera before coming here. Nonetheless, seeing the scenery through the finder was so much fun that Chizuru took picture after picture. Light reflected off the icicles hanging from the thatched roofs. Birds pecked at the fruit of snow-covered rowan trees. A wild, bright white rabbit rushed out of a snowfield. For Chizuru, who had been frail since she was young, living in this mountain settlement full of clear air was like being reborn. She couldn't experience any of this in Tokyo, where the sky was filled with industrial smoke. Oh? She must be... Chizuru heard the voices of two girls around the same age as her and turned around. The girls wore school uniforms and were looking at her from some distance away. Chizuru hesitated, then gave them a small bow. Are you staying at the Korea clinic? The students approached her and asked. Yes, my name is Kuchiki Chizuru. I'm Futami Yu from the Futami Inn in Maihina. I'm Takamiya Meguri. Nice to meet you. Certainly. What were you taking pictures of? The scenery. I've never seen anywhere as beautiful as this. I think Tokyo's gotta be way more beautiful. There's nothing out here. When you say beautiful, you mean the clothes, right, Kuriko? Well, I guess so. She couldn't help but smile at the exchange between the girls she just met. If you're taking pictures, maybe you should check out the shrine above here. Meguri pointed up the mountain. Shrine? She had noticed the torii and stone steps, but hadn't climbed them yet. It's got quite a history. It was built in the early Edo period. It's been there that long? What was it, young mistress? Something about an exiled princess? The princess was sent here when her father, the feudal lord, wouldn't give up Christianity at the start of the Edo period when alternative religions were prohibited. So it has quite a history. We have a festival at the shrine on March 3rd, too. For Hinamatsuri? Hinamatsuri, or Girls' Day, is a holiday celebrated in Japan, where ornamental dolls are displayed to celebrate the growth and happiness of young girls. Okay, well, I will say there are going to be some creepy dolls in this game, so maybe that has something to do with it. Hinamatsuri, well, sort of, but it's a little different. Something called Hina-sama is worshipped at the shrine. More accurately, it's the Hinagami family who worships Hina-sama, though. You corrected Meguri. And this Hina-sama is a vengeful god, apparently. Meguri lowered her voice. Vengeful? It can't really be talked about publicly, but there have been people cursed to death in the past. Why is this? This is reminding... The more I read this, the more this reminds me of Higurashi. I see. She didn't immediately react to the word curse. The village elderly have encountered it before, so they believe in it, but we've never seen anything like it. I've gotten yelled at, though. Like, if I do something bad, Hina-sama will come. That's because you're a troublemaker, Godoko. That's not true, and whenever I do anything, you're there too, aren't you, young mistress? I suppose so. So, wouldn't I be cursed if I take pictures of that shrine? She asked, suddenly uneasy. I don't think you'd be cursed just for that, though I've heard making another Hina-sama is a no-no. If anyone were to be cursed, it'd be Nao-chan and Rahito for swiping donations. You got that right. The two laughed. Chizuru smiled, watching them. She had been feeling nervous in this unfamiliar place, but it seemed to be full of nice people. Chizuru! She heard Fumiya's voice in the distance. Oh, Nissan. Your brother? Meguri turned toward the voice. Yes, he must have come to get me. I have to go. Oh, sure. See you later. Before Fumiya could approach them, Chizuru bowed her head to the two girls and turned away from them. Nissan. She ran over to Fumiya. Chizuru, it's almost time for your checkup. Yes, I know. Let's go back, Nissan. Chizuru nestled up to Fumiya, and the two of them walked back to the Korea clinic. The way she talks to him is just... it's so obvious that she likes him a little bit more than just as a brother. She held Fumiya's arm tightly so she wouldn't trip in the snow. Is that the only reason? Nissan? What is it, Chizuru? Later, can I take pictures of you? What kind of pictures? There are plenty of things more interesting than me to take pictures of, aren't there? But... She put a little strength into her arms. Well, if you'd like. Thank you. They arrived at the Korea clinic, still clinging tightly to each other. How have you been lately? I haven't been coughing or dizzy much lately, probably because the air is so clear here. Chizuru answered Yuzuru's questions. Are you sleeping well? Yes, I'd imagined it would be a little cold, but I haven't had any problems yet. If it gets cold, there are blankets in the closet, so go ahead and use those. Thank you. Gonna have to look at your back, Yuzuru said, stethoscope at his ears. Okay. Chizuru turned her back to Yuzuru and bared her skin. Deep breath, and hold it in. He placed the diaphragm of the stethoscope on her back. It felt cold. She stiffened and endured it. The stethoscope was pulled away, replaced by Yuzuru's warm fingers. His fingers tapped on her back. And the other side. Okay. She turned her back to Yuzuru, covering her chest. Hold your breath. She followed his instructions. The stethoscope was placed on her chest. This was something she'd experienced countless times since she was young. There had been a time when she was too embarrassed of her newly developed breasts to see male doctors, but she had soon grown used to that too. Oh my god. There weren't many doctors who saw their patients as sexual objects. Well, if they did, they'd lose their job. She could tell from watching her father and his colleagues that most doctors didn't have time for such things. Yuzuru's fingers touched her bare skin. But even so, she couldn't help getting nervous when a man touched her for the first time. Try to relax. Yes. She exhaled at Yuzuru's urging. I don't hear any arrhythmia or fluid buildup. Yuzuru turned to his desk. Chizuru took the opportunity to fix her clothes. Is there anything troubling you lately? What? Chizuru was at a loss for words for a moment when she was asked a question she didn't expect. No, nothing in particular. If it's not something you're comfortable with telling me, go ahead and talk to Sawashiro-kun. Yes, thank you. It wasn't something she could tell anyone about, so all Chizuru could do was nod. I have a feeling of what that might be. Nissan. Chizuru called out to Fumiya from the bed late at night. What is it? Would you mind wiping off my sweat? Oh god. Okay, I have read this before, so I know where this is going, and I will skip it when it gets to that point. I think you guys know what I'm trying to imply here. But yeah, things are about to get a little bit not safe for work. She turned her back to him. Let me get a washcloth. Fumiya stood and left the room. Phew. She breathed a sigh. Her heart was beating so hard she thought her chest might burst open. She took a deep breath to calm herself down and bared her upper body. Her breasts seemed impossibly mature for her age. How old is she supposed to be now? I'm guessing she's like 16 or something. She covered them with her arms. The orbs of flesh were pushed together and twisted obscenely. Sweat stood out on her swollen breasts. Oh god, what's going on? What is she about to do? She's about to do something not safe for work too, I'll bet. It was a nervous sweat. The room was actually at a pleasant temperature, not at all hot enough to sweat in, but her brother had made no mention of that fact. Then what's making her so hot and bothered? Fumiya returned. I got some hot water. Chizuru looked over her shoulder to see steam rising from a wash basin. Thank you. Pulling her hair over her shoulder, she covered her chest. I'll wipe your back then. Oh my god. The warm washcloth slowly caressed her back. She could hardly bear the tension. She clutched the ends of her yukata and tried to endure it. Is it too hot? No, not at all. She shook her head. She could tell her face was red. She couldn't show that face to her brother. I don't know, it seems like you kind of want to, though. Chizuru let out a warm sigh every time her brother's hand slipped down her back with the washcloth. Oh my god. Her brother's hand pulled away from her. She heard him dip the washcloth in the basin and wring it out. Do your foot by yourself, okay? Okay. He handed her the washcloth. I'll go return the basin. Fumiya stood. She watched him leave the room out of the corner of her eye. A deep sigh. The washcloth her brother had wrung out. The washcloth with her brother's warmth. Oh my god. What's going on? No. She pushed it slowly to her chest. She wiped her bare skin slowly, moving the cloth in circles. Imagining the... Okay. Wow. Imagining the feeling of each finger as the sensation of those of her brothers. Okay. Skipping this. Okay, we skipped a little bit of that. Fumiya had returned. Nissan? She could tell that her face was red. Are you okay? Do you feel... No, don't worry. She fixed her kimono, refolded the wrinkled washcloth, and wiped her face. Let's go to bed, Nissan. Yeah, let's. They got into the futon. Still feeling wet even though she had wiped off all her sweat, Chizuru tightly gripped the washcloth. Yeah, wet in more ways than one, I assume. The lights were out. Phew, Fumiya sighed. Chizuru let out a little breath inside the futon. She was still holding the washcloth. It was no longer warm. Still, it was something her brother had touched. She rolled it into a tube and kissed it softly. Oh my god. Oh my god, wait a minute. What's happening? Oh my god, what's happening? She licked the tip with her tongue. Oh my god. No, 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 no. What? Did she turn it into a phallic shape? Is that why? Is that why she's doing this? The salty taste of sweat. Of course, it was the taste of her own body, since she had just been using it to wipe herself down. But that didn't matter to Chizuru at the moment. Yeah, I'm sure it didn't. She pretended that it was her brother's taste and pecked at the cloth with her tongue. Okay. Okay. I think we should skip some more of this shit. Okay, so she tried to call it to her brother, but he was asleep. He was asleep. And he should stay asleep. She breathed a big sigh. Her brother had always been a heavy sleeper. So tonight too, no matter what she did next to him, he wouldn't notice. Oh god, is she gonna continue? Yeah, she's gonna continue, okay. Okay, well, enough of that. We skipped some more. God damn it. It's hard to know when I should start reading again. Like, when I'm just like, I just feel like I'm metaphorically like peeking my head out. I'm like, when is it safe? When can I come back to this? Getting her breathing under control, Chizuru softly closed her eyes. Okay, well, that was something. That was something that I yeah, I don't think I want to read it. Well, I mean, I didn't read it, but yeah, it's going to get worse. it's going to get worse. I'll just say that. The sun was already sinking beneath the western mountains when Kensei, the Shigusa Shrine's senior priest, brought Satsuki to the Courier Clinic. Thanks for seeing us today. Of course. Yuzuru stood from the chair he was sitting in and greeted Kensei. Just a checkup today, right? That is correct. My chart, Sawashiro-kun. Here you go. Nanako, ready at his side, handed Yuzuru a blank medical chart. Name Shigusa Satsuki is fine, right? Yes. Nanako thought it was a little odd that Kensei was the one who answered rather than Satsuki. Have you felt unwell at all lately? Not particularly. Satsuki shook her head. There was no life in her expression at all. She was like a doll. This was Nanako's first time meeting her. She had heard that there was a guest staying at the Shigusa Shrine. The chart Yuzuru was filling out had a lot of blank space on it. The things that usually got filled in first, like birth date and blood type, were still blank. Regardless, Yuzuru and Kensei and even Satsuki paid that fact no mind. Is there anything you've observed, Kensei-san? Let's see. Kensei placed a hand on his chin and thought. Well, sometimes she says some strange things. Strange things? Yes, there are times when she's alone in a room, but it seems as though she's talking to someone. Satsuki did not react when Kensei spoke, nor did she object to anything he said. She talks to herself? Perhaps so, but normally when one talks to themselves, they aren't having a conversation, right? Yuzuru nodded and turned to Satsuki. Who is it that you talk to? I only speak to myself. To yourself? Yes, I'm the only one in the room, so I can't talk to anyone else. Satsuki spoke indifferently. It was as if she was talking about someone else. Do you face something in the room when you do this? No. Oh, actually, there's a mirror in the room. So you speak to the mirror? Yes, because I can't speak to myself if I don't look at the mirror. Yuzuru's pen raced across the chart. He had the qualifications of a psychiatrist as well. Nanako had heard that he'd studied such things before joining the Kuria family, when he was Hinagami Yuzuru. It had already been decided for him at that point that as the second son, he would enter the Kuria family, which had only daughters. It was at that point that he realized there were new illnesses in these mountains besides sickness and injuries. There had been more and more villagers visiting the Kuria clinic with psychiatric illnesses, so he had begun prescribing more narcotics and tranquilizers. Their supplies were relatively stable despite the times, however, since the area was home to the Hinagami Pharmaceutical Company. It's common for children to create imaginary friends to talk to. Her symptoms seem to be something like that. However, Yuzuru explained to Kensei. Isn't it unnatural at her age? No, not necessarily. There are cases reported where such things continue past the age of 20, though she might require an improvement to her living environment. I see. Well, that's why we're taking care of her. Right. They were both suddenly silent. For now, make sure you're eating and sleeping enough. Yuzuru abruptly told Satsuki. Yes, I understand. Satsuki nodded. Could you take her outside, Sawashiro-kun? I'd like to speak with Kensei-san a little more. Certainly. Come with me then. Satsuki stood and Nanako brought her outside the room. The sun was setting and it was cold outside, so Nanako brought Satsuki to the Kuria house's living room. There was no one else in the living room. Make yourself comfortable, Satsuki-san. She pulled a chair out and offered it to Satsuki. Thank you. Satsuki sat down. Nanako entered the kitchen and started boiling some water. May I offer you some tea? Don't trouble yourself. She was about to get out a teapot and some cups when she noticed a pile of unwashed dishes in the sink. She wondered if housework like this didn't get done because the family was composed of 3 generations of men. Nanako decided to wash the dishes while the water was boiling. In part, it was because she was unsure of what to talk to Satsuki about. She was a guest, after all. Many of the village's elderly considered it taboo to carelessly interact with the guest. No one but those of the Hinagami and Shigusa families could interact with each other. The Kuria family was one of the few exceptions, as they were doctors. Nanako's family had only moved here in her father's generation, so she didn't consider herself as superstitious as the other people in the village. That was why it didn't bother her to talk to Satsuki, or rather, it shouldn't have. The water was boiling. She turned the gas off and lined up the teacups, and felt a hand on her butt. Oh god. Yeah. Mind making a cup for me too, Nanako-kun? Nanako jumped and spun around. So was standing there as if nothing had happened. Doctor! Are you not sleeping well lately? Your butt is sagging a little. Oh my god. It's not sagging. However, she didn't deny the lack of sleep. I keep telling you to stop touching my butt as a greeting, Doctor. Man, if this were current year, this dude would be cancelled. I'm just giving you a physical examination. Not a hint of modesty. We have a guest right now. So I can touch you all I want when we don't have guests. I'll make sure your tea is still scalding, Doctor. Have mercy, unless you plan on nursing my burnt tongue for me, Nanako-kun. So sat across from Satsuki as he made his jokes. I take it you're Satsuki-chan. I appreciate your hospitality. Satsuki bowed her head. I heard about you from my grandson. You're a little quieter than I'd imagined. She's probably just afraid you're going to touch her butt. Nanako interjected as she poured tea from the teapot into the cups. My examinations only work on Nanako-kun. I don't think they're working. Here you go. She placed a teacup in front of Satsuki. Oh, thank you. It might still be a bit hot, so be careful you don't burn yourself. Right. Leaving a teacup in front of So too, Nanako returned to the kitchen. There was nothing strange about Satsuki. Yuzuru had mentioned an imaginary friend in his examination earlier. Nanako couldn't say that she had a lot of knowledge of psychiatry, but she understood that it was probably a symptom of schizophrenia. But as she watched Satsuki blow on her tea to cool it down, she could only see a completely normal girl. Of course, she couldn't say for sure. Yuzuru and Kensei came to the living room. It's time to go home, Satsuki-san. Very well. Satsuki sat her cup down and stood, bowing her head to Nanako. Thank you for the tea. Please excuse me. Of course. Take care. Satsuki and Kensei left. May I have some tea too, Sawashiro-kun? Oh, sure. She returned to the kitchen and poured him a cup. Make sure you clean up the kitchen, okay, you two? There's no need to worry about bugs in the winter, so I just end up leaving them. So scratched his head. Wasn't it Naori's job today? These aren't just from today, she declared definitively. If only you would marry into the family, Nanako-kun. To me. Dad. Yuzuru responded, exasperated. It's fine, I don't intend on doing any such thing. Nanako laughed in response. Cold as ice. So laughed. Even without marrying in, Nanako felt like she was treated as part of the Kuria family. So she was happy with the way things were. These were the only people Nanako felt she could call family. Oh, may I offer you some tea too, Fumiya-kun? She asked Fumiya as he entered the living room. Yes, please. Are you planning on becoming a doctor too? Nanako asked, placing his tea in front of him. Yes, I plan to succeed my father and become a surgeon, so I'm studying now. Oh, what splendid dedication. We're a little country hospital, and all we've got is a psychiatrist or something. So turned towards Yuzuru. I told you, I've studied other fields as well. It seems Naori wants to go in that direction too, so I suppose I won't be able to retire for a while yet. So laughed. Good luck on your studies, Fumiya-kun. Yes, thank you. Fumiya and Naori should have been the same age, but he seemed much more straightforward to Nanako. Naori seemed a little more farsighted, like he wanted to push himself, or he wasn't sure what he wanted. Fumiya seemed to act more like his own age. Nissan. Chizuru emerged from her room and called to Fumiya. What is it, Chizuru? Fumiya turned away from the conversation. Can you come here? Chizuru approached and pulled on Fumiya's arm, and took the opportunity to glare at Nanako. Is she jealous? She muttered to herself. Nanako, of course, had meant nothing of the sort. Yeah, you can see how overprotective Chizuru seems to be, and how clingy she is. Jesus Christ. After class ended, Naori and Ayato started heading home. Oh, that's right, Nao-chan. Ayato stopped and took a book out of his bag. Here's the book you lent me. How'd you like it? It was a little too confusing for me. Ayato was frank with his response. You wanted to use it as inspiration for your art, right? He put away the book. Goes Faust. I guess a picture based on this would be pretty sordid, though. Maybe an easier book would have been better. Easier, huh? Aren't all these religious works kinda incomprehensible? It's not that I want to draw something religious, I'm just looking for some new material. How about something like folklore, then? There's plenty of that around here, right? But that kind of stuff is... Ayato was evasive. I bet you'll be able to find plenty just by asking your family. And that's why I'd rather not. I mean, it always ends up being about our ancestors or whatever. The ancestors of the Hinagami family. Weren't they vassals of the Maeda family? Maeda family. The Maeda clan was a famous and powerful samurai family. Okay. Oh wait, Oda Nobunaga? Maeda Toshie was one of the leading generals under Oda Nobunaga during the Warring States period. Oh, wow. The more you know. More like vassals of vassals, I think. They were from a sub-fief. And any anecdotes from around then would be about Hina-sama, right? I don't know anything for sure, though. I doubt they'll formally tell me anything until I succeed the family. Come to think of it, my dad doesn't really know that much about the Hinagami family or Hina-sama either. Naori's father, Yuzuru, was the second son and didn't possess the qualifications to succeed the family. By the way, Nao-chan, he turned to face Naori. What is it? The festival's coming up, right? Grandpa said that the Miko would be in it this year. Yeah, I heard that too. I don't suppose this Miko might be Sachin. I don't know either. Sachin's a visiting guest, right? But the Miko is supposed to be in Hitogaya purifying herself forever. Yeah, but... Ayato seemed indecisive, as if he was thinking about something. Well, if you're that worried about it, why don't you just go ask her? She's right over there. Huh? In the direction Naori had pointed, at the base of the stone steps leading to the Shigusa shrine, Satsuki stood, wearing a beautiful kimono. Hello. Satsuki bowed. Hey, looks like Rihito has a question for you, Naori said, gesturing at Ayato. Oh? What is it? Seemingly surprised, Satsuki tilted her head. No, it's not that important, and Ayato retreated. There's no need to be nervous, it's just a little gossip. Naori gave Ayato a shove, pushing him in front of Satsuki. What is it? Oh, there's a rumor going around that you're the Miko, though Nao-chan was the one who started it. No, I didn't. Naori poked Ayato's head from behind him. I'm the Miko? Oh, but it was just a rumor. I mean, I hear no one has ever seen what the Miko looks like up until now. That's because she appears during the festival wearing a mask. I hear Saya-san has been doing it as a stand-in since we were little, though. I see. Satsuki didn't seem to understand. If she had really come from outside the village, then that was no wonder. What exactly happens at the festival? Well, let's see. The main reason for the festival would be the Kagura dance, right? Sacred ritual dances. The concept of the Kagura dance has been evolving around millennium? Okay. He confirmed with Ayato. He figured someone from the Hinagami family would know more about this sort of thing. There isn't much, but they put up some stands on the shrine grounds. You can get candied apples and ohagi, stuff like that. Ohagi. Japanese sweets consisting of balls of sweet rice wrapped in a sweet red bean paste. That's not the reason for the festival. That's your reason. Sounds fun. Satsuki smiled. Well, it's pretty much the only event in the whole settlement. We don't really have much to amuse ourselves with here. You'll come see it, right, Sachin? Huh? Me? The festival's on March 3rd. You'll still be here by then, right? Yes, most likely. I've never been to a festival before, so I'm looking forward to it. It'd be nice if we could go together, don't you think? Yes, I suppose so. Satsuki nodded, blushing. Well, I'm guessing that's going to be the next big thing to happen. By the time Satsuki got back to the shrine, snow had started falling from the sky. Apparently they would put stands here during the festival. Satsuki didn't know if she'd be able to see them, so all she could do was imagine them. But I've never been to a festival before, she said to herself. Festivals had nothing to do with any place Satsuki had been up until now. She had never been allowed anywhere that lively. But even if I've never been to one, I can still imagine, right? She responded to her own words. It was as if she was having a conversation. I don't know. What are stands? Some kind of shop? He did say they had ohagi. She recalled what Rihito had said earlier. He'd invited Satsuki to the festival. She was happy for the invitation. However, will I be able to go? Satsuki couldn't answer that question. Satsuki-san? Instead, Saya's voice stopped her. I have returned. She bowed her head to Saya. Welcome back. Nothing happened? Yes. A curt response. She didn't mention that she had met Rihito and Nao-chan. You have dancing practice today, so come to my room later. Yes, understood. So she must be the Miko they're talking about, right? I mean, she must know that if she's going to the, dancing practice. What else would she be going to dancing practice for? Satsuki bowed and headed for the shrine office. She passed by it and headed to the backyard. This was the separated storehouse given to Satsuki. She unlocked the door and entered. Ooh, spooky shed. It was midday, and yet inside the storehouse it was dark. I'm back, she said, closing the door. Dinner had already been laid out on the tatami. Before taking her seat, Satsuki headed to the large mirror in the back of the room. I'm back. She repeated herself in front of the mirror. Welcome back. Satsuki's mouth moved. How was your day? She was asked a question. I heard about the festival. Festival? Yes, Rihito-san told me about it. I see. The Satsuki reflected in the mirror nodded. Have some supper. It'll get cold. Yes, I suppose you're right. She left the mirror and sat on a woven cushion. The meal consisted of boiled barley, sardines, and miso soup with potato, meat, and radish. Some rice was mixed in with the barley. My gratitude. She entwined her fingers and offered a short prayer. It was a habit that had been ingrained in her since childhood. She picked up her chopsticks and began to eat. It may have been a little while since the serving table was brought to her, as the food was already mostly cold. Still, she was thankful for the food as she brought it to her stomach. It was delicious. After finishing the miso soup, she offered another prayer. Well, I have my dancing practice, she said, gathering up her dishes on the serving table. Yes, I know. Well, that's just always really goddamn creepy. Satsuki left the storehouse. The backyard was covered in snow, and the path to the shrine office was faintly illuminated. She hurried to the office, table in her arms. Satsuki put the table in the kitchen before heading to Saya's room as she'd been told to. Welcome, Satsuki-san. She took a seat in front of Saya. Sorry for the wait. Let's begin. Saya stood. Do you remember the footwork? Yes, for the most part. We've still got some time, so don't rush. Take your time remembering everything. Saya smiled and slowly began the basic footwork of the dance. Forward, back. Saya's feet moved with her voice. Turn, crouch. Saya's movements were graceful. Satsuki stiffly watched her footwork. She couldn't move like that yet, so she made sure to burn Saya's movements into her mind. Okay, Satsuki-san. Right. Satsuki stood. Forward, back. Satsuki moved with Saya's voice. Turn. Yes, and crouch. She faithfully mimicked Saya's earlier movements. Keep your torso like that. Yes, now move to the side and turn. She turned on one leg. Feet straight, fingers like you're drawing a circle. Saya instructed her at points. Hands forward, elbows straight. Don't bend them. Saya rose and stood behind Satsuki. Now raise your arm. Yes, like that. Saya took Satsuki's arm and raised it above her head. Fingers out straight. Satsuki's hand rested in Saya's. Yes, waist straight. Saya spoke into Satsuki's ear. Now, slowly, down. Saya's body leaned over Satsuki's. And that's it. Right. Saya pulled Satsuki's body back up. Once more, from the beginning. Understood. Saya left Satsuki's side and took a seat in the corner of the room. Begin. Forward. Back. Satsuki moved with Saya's voice. The light of the candle flickered and Satsuki's shadow was cast upon the sliding door. Satsuki continued practicing her dance, showing her shadow as if it were her other self. Maybe it was. Ooh. It was February. The festival at the beginning of March was coming up and the inhabitants of the village were focused on its preparation. Shimenawa and Tamaguchi were displayed in every house and sacred sake was being brought in to be offered. Shimenawa are ropes decorated with paper streamers. Okay, I think I know what that is. Nanako watched it all with a bit of disillusionment in her eyes. The village elderly had always gone about preparing for the festival without a moment of hesitation. Even at the hospital, they talked excitedly about how this would be the first time in many years that the Miko would attend the festival. Nanako wondered what it all meant. If it was going to cause a miracle, maybe it would free this country from the circumstances bearing down around it. The war on the mainland was causing shortages of goods within the country and would eventually result in the deprivation of people's freedom. But she knew that her regional god didn't possess that sort of power. It might even have been too much to ask for a miracle that the people of this village weren't conscripted as soldiers. I'm back. She set the bread she'd brought at the settlement's only general store on the table. She found So, Naori, and their guest Fumiya in the living room. Sorry to trouble you all the time, Nanako-kun. I thought we agreed not to say that. Evading So's hand as it reached toward her butt, Nanako sat in a chair. Everyone's busy preparing for the festival, huh? Well, it's been so long since the Mikos offered a dance, So said as he tore off some bread from a bun. When was the last time the Miko was there? About 20 years ago, So answered, staring up at the ceiling. Wow. So this isn't just like a once-a-year thing. What sort of things go on at the festival? The dance, mostly. Otherwise, there are some food stands, I suppose. Do we really need to have it in winter, though? Well, it's supposed to be on the same day as Hinamatsuri. How are the two related? Because of Hina-sama, So explained to Fumiya. But Hina-sama is the guardian deity of the Hinagamis, right? Everyone thought the prosperity of the chief of the village, Hinagami, was directly related to the growth of the village itself, and that's still true now, isn't it? I suppose so, Nanako agreed. If Hinagami Pharmaceuticals wasn't earning money on the outside, the tiny settlement would probably disappear in the blink of an eye. The extent of their contributions were immeasurable precisely because of the remoteness of the area. So, in what ways does the Miko differ from a regular shrine maiden? Not many. The Miko is an agent of Hina-sama. Shrine maidens in other places do things like channeling, right? Something along those lines. I see. I may be learned in the art of medicine, but I don't know much about Shinto. I'm just repeating what I've heard since long ago. So said with a laugh. They say there's a curse, too. A curse? Well, so they say. So kept his words brief. It's nothing to worry about if you just live your life normally. Do you have to do something to be cursed? Naori continued to pry with his questions. If you worship Hina-sama properly, you'll be blessed, but if you worship incorrectly, disaster will befall you. Or so it goes. Yuzuru emerged from the examination room. Someone took the disaster part and exaggerated it into a curse. That's what happened. Chizuru was at Yuzuru's side. Chizuru-san, is something wrong? She looked sickly. I just don't feel very well. I gave her a soporific, so she should rest for a while in her room. Got it. Oh, I'll take her. Fumiya stood. Okay, I appreciate it. He supported Chizuru's body and the two of them left the living room, huddled together. Chizuru-san might need some psychiatric treatment too, Yuzuru muttered. Is it bad? She's still showing signs of insomnia. I believe it's placing a physical burden on her as well. Well, I'll leave that to you, Yuzuru. Right, and could you watch out for her too, Sawashiro-kun? Yes, I understand. Nanako nodded, though she got the feeling that Chizuru wasn't very comfortable around her. Oh god, I hope it's not getting to the scene I think it's getting to. Okay, not just yet. Because when I heard they were both walking to the room together, I'm like, oh no, here we go. Here we go. Satsuki walked the road that led to the shrine. She made sure there was no one in front of her nor behind her and stepped past the Shimenawa onto a side road. The area behind the rope was sacred ground, off limits to entry. She walked down the narrow path through the grove. After walking for a time, a cave appeared before her. A Shimenawa hung here too. This area was called Kakarebina, and was the deepest part of the settlement. She'd gone a short ways up the mountain, but this wasn't her destination. A stream flowed just nearby. It wasn't deep, but it continued flowing without freezing, even in winter. She followed the water downstream. The snow around the bank had melted, exposing the stones and making the path a lot easier to walk than it had seemed. But she proceeded slowly, so as not to slip into the water. This was a secret path she'd found that only she knew about. She looked up at the sky as she walked. With the trees bare of leaves, she could see relatively far through the grove. Farther downstream, she could see a familiar building. Phew. When she arrived in front of the hideout, she breathed a sigh. Her calves were a little sore from the walk. She'd had the idea to look for this path after being brought to the hideout before, but taking the stone steps like usual may have been quicker. And her feet hurt. When she put her hand on the door to enter the hideout, she noticed Ayato in the opposite direction from the way she'd come. Oh, he was here. When she saw him, she was so happy she almost ran to him, but she stopped. What you drawing, boy? His profile. He was staring at a single point with a thoughtful expression. A small sketchbook was in his hands. He was drawing. She wondered what he was drawing and followed his line of sight, but all Satsuki saw was a field of snow. Or rather, just then, the snow moved slightly. Small black eyes darted about. It was a snow-white bird. It poked at tree roots in the snow with a small beak. Satsuki didn't dare move. She imagined that if she moved even a little, the white bird would notice her. She wanted to ask Ayato what kind of bird it was, but she couldn't even speak. She peered out from behind the wall, watching Ayato and the bird. It looked like Ayato was drawing the bird. Pencil in hand, his body didn't even twitch, save for his eyes and fingers. Satsuki held her breath as well, stiffly watching Ayato and the white bird. The white bird lifted its head. Ugh! At almost exactly the same moment Ayato gasped, the bird spread its wings and took flight. It moved its small wings and kicked off the ground to fly away. Ayato sighed. Rihito-san? Satsuki could finally speak to him. Oh, Sachin. Finally noticing her, Ayato walked over. What kind of bird was that? She asked the question she'd been wanting to ask. Oh, it was a ptarmigan. I don't know how you pronounce that. Ptarmigan? Ptarmigan? They're usually on taller mountains, but this one came down here. I was sketching it since it's a rare sight. I see. It was a beautiful bird. They're only white in winter, though. In summer, they're darker. Really? Would you mind showing me your sketch? It's not finished, but sure. Ayato handed over his sketchbook. Thank you. She thought Ayato's ptarmigan sketch captured the features of the bird very well. A round body and small round eyes. Wow, It's beautiful. You think so? Aito scratched his nose and looked away as if embarrassed. Yes, I mean, for you to draw all this in such a short time. Well, I've always liked drawing. Can I have this? Nope. Huh? It's not done yet. I can't give you something incomplete. I see. Satsuki hung her head. But if I see another ptarmigan and finish it, it's all yours, Aito murmured. Really? There's no point lying about it, is there? Then it's a promise, right? She beamed. For Satsuki, who had so few possessions, she knew it would be an irreplaceable treasure. Then we'll have to find another ptarmigan right away. It's a rare sight here as it is, so it won't be that easy. A little discouraged by his words, Satsuki gazed out over the snowfields. Let's go bird watching. Try to find the rare ptarmigan bird. Her body felt heavy. It was clearly because of the medicine she had taken earlier. She returned to her room, leaning against her brother's body. The sensation of his warmth was very comfortable. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Are you alright, Chizuru? Yes. Fumiya gazed worriedly at her face. She lay down on the bed. Thank you, Nissan. She looked up at Fumiya's face. I'll be getting back to the living room then. Chizuru unconsciously grabbed Fumiya's sleeve as he rose. Huh? What? Chizuru let go, not comprehending what she was doing herself. What is it, Chizuru? Oh, Fumiya sat back down. Chizuru looked away, unable to look him in the face. Nissan, could you stay here a little longer? Yeah, if that's all you want. Fumiya smiled. Thank you. Chizuru extended a hand from under the blanket and entwined her fingers with Fumiya's. Her brother's warmth. Just that was enough to calm her heart. Of course, the medicine was probably at work too. But her brother's presence was the greatest medicine for Chizuru. Even so, he was also the cause for most of her unease. She moved her fingers, softly stroking the palm of her brother's hand. She moved her fingers in the same way she did when she comforted herself at night. Yeah, she did do that. She didn't put much strength into the movement, just stroking the surface of his skin. Chizuru, that tickles. I'm sorry. Chizuru stopped at Fumiya's words. A strange sensation boiled up from deep within her. Yeah, strange, huh? Nissan. What is it? I'm thirsty. Could you get me some water? Sure, I'll go get it right now. Fumiya stood. Chizuru's hand fell to the bed. Fumiya left the room, not hearing Chizuru's voice. She pulled her hand under the covers. The hand that had just been touching her brother. It drew slowly between her legs. Oh my god, are we doing this again? We're doing this again, aren't we? Okay, I have to wonder what kind of medicine makes you aroused like that, apparently. Like, I don't know what kind of medicine she was given. Okay, in reality, it was a weak soporific. It didn't have any effects of that nature. Okay, so why does she think it does? Still, Chizuru tried to persuade herself that this behavior was a side effect of the medicine and not of her own will. Okay. That kind of makes sense if she's trying to convince herself that it's not her own doing. Chizuru! Fumiya's voice. Fumiya rushed into the room. Are you alright, Chizuru? You sounded like you were having a nightmare. Nissan. Did he see her? Did he notice? Do you have a fever? Setting aside the glass pitcher, Fumiya leaned over Chizuru and stared down at her face. Okay. This is gonna get real fucking weird pretty quick. Huge tears suddenly spilled from her eyes. I mean, it already was weird, but even more so. It's alright, Chizuru. Fumiya placed a hand on Chizuru's cheek. His cold hand. She'd heard that people with cold hands had warm hearts, but was that warmth directed at her? It was strange. This was all because of the medicine. Yeah, blame the medicine. It must have been. To feel such arousal just from her brother's hand on her cheek. Yeah, okay. Apparently, it's incest medicine. Makes you want to fucking commit like lewd sexual acts with your fucking siblings. You seem a little restless at night lately too. Huh? The color drained from her face in an instant. Nissan, you noticed? I thought you were probably okay, so... Fumiya was evasive. He'd noticed. Oh god. That's gotta be pretty goddamn embarrassing. That fact was clear to her even in her muddled mind.
Nissan.
You should rest for now. Fumiya pulled his hand back. If you don't, I might... His hand was shaking.
Nissan.
I might... Fumiya's hand grabbed Chizuru's shoulder. Oh god. Chizuru pushed him away reflexively. Whoa! Fumiya lurched and fell backward. His right hand jutted out and smashed the pitcher. Oh.
Nissan.
Blood dyed the surrounding floor red. Even if it was because of the spilled water, it was clear that he'd suffered a serious injury. Chizuru sat up, drowsiness forgotten.
What happened?
Nanako flew into the room, having heard the sound.
Nissan, Don't move. It's dangerous. Please come here, doctor.
Nanako rushed over to Fumiya and held down the inside of his right elbow. Fumiya's right hand was dyed bright red. This isn't good. Bring him to the examination room. Hurry. So examined Fumiya's injury and handed down orders based on his judgment. They used a towel to stop the bleeding for the time being, and Naori and Yuzuru carried Fumiya into the examination room. Chizuru sat in a daze all this time.
Are you alright?
Nanako asked as she cleaned up the broken pitcher with a broom and dustpan. She'd injured her brother. She'd injured the brother who cared so much for her. Because she had pushed him. Because she had been afraid of his touch. Even though she had desired it.
What happened?
She couldn't answer. There was no way she could say.
My brother, he fell, and his hand, it hit.
I'm scum. Those were the words Chizuru thought to herself in her hazy mind. She was lying to protect herself. More tears spilled out when she realized.
It's alright.
Nanako embraced Chizuru and consoled her when she started crying. But even that act of kindness was troublesome to Chizuru, a part of her fearful that Nanako would be able to tell from her scent that she had been playing with herself. Oh my god. Yeah. I think everybody knows at this point. Okay, well maybe that scene hasn't happened yet. I guess it does happen later. I thought it was about to happen though. Satsuki walked atop the fresh snow to the Hinagami residence. It wasn't as big as the Shigusa shrine, but Satsuki could tell that it was a little large for a regular house. Fixing her grip on her bundle, she headed toward the entrance.
Excuse me.
She called into the house. She waited for a bit and a man in his prime came to the door.
I'm staying at the Shigusa shrine right now. My name is Satsuki. I've come to see the head of the family, Chizuru-sama.
That would be me.
Please pardon me. I was told to come tell you that there is a meeting related to the festival.
I see. Chizuru nodded laconically.
I was also told to deliver this.
She offered her bundle. My mother is inside, so deliver it to her. Go ahead and come in.
Certainly. Please excuse me.
She ducked past Chizuru and entered the house. She came to a spacious living room. A woman sitting next to the sunken hearth looked up at Satsuki.
Who might you be? Excuse me. I'm staying at the Shigusa shrine. My name is Satsuki.
Her hands touched the floor and she prostrated herself.
So what is your business? I was told to deliver this.
She offered her bundle.
I see.
Oh, Sachin. A voice from behind cut her words short.
What is it, Ayato-san? Whatever it is, there's no need to be so noisy in front of a guest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rihito-san?
Ayato was staring at her from the hallway. Perfect timing. We're getting ready for the festival right now, so you should join us.
Huh? But...
She looked to Mariko. She can go, right, Grandma? Do as you please. Mariko rose and took the bundle from the living room. This way. Come on. Ayato grasped Satsuki's hand. He pulled her more strongly than she anticipated and she stumbled for a few steps. He practically ended up holding her up, and she hurriedly pulled away. Are you okay?
Yes.
Her heart was pounding.
What are you doing to prepare for the festival?
She asked Ayato, so that he didn't notice her in her turmoil. We're needing some clay. I guess they're making decorative clay dolls for the festival.
I see.
Glancing at the household shrine in the back of the living room, Satsuki nodded. The room Ayato led her to contained a large basin with clay heaped up inside it.
Oh!
Karen stopped playing with the clay and raised her head. Karen, mind if Sachin joins us?
Well, I don't really mind, I suppose.
Karen reluctantly nodded, though she seemed dissatisfied.
But her kimono will get dirty like that. I don't really mind. Well, I mind. Nii-sama, could you fetch a cord from grandmother?
Oh, sure. Just a moment, Sachin. Ayato left the room. Left behind, all Satsuki could do was sit down next to Karen.
What brings you here today?
Karen wiped her hands as she asked. Yeah, Karen seems a little bit angry about this.
Well, I'm on an errand from the Shigusa Shrine. If you're finished with your errand, perhaps you should have headed home already.
Damn.
But Ryito-san invited me.
Satsuki replied, bewildered by Karen's aggressive behavior. I mean, I kind of would be too. I'd be like, what the fuck's your problem?
That doesn't mean... what are we doing with this?
Satsuki asked, pointing at the clay in the basin.
Just kneading the clay. The Miko is the one who makes the doll. Is that so?
She gazed at the palm of her hand.
I suppose it's okay if my grandmother gave you permission, but this is supposed to be a task entrusted only to the Hinagami family, you know. So the two of you were doing it. Yes, that's right.
Karen puffed up with pride.
It's only natural, since the Hinagami family supports this village.
Ayato returned with a white cord. Is this okay?
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
Accepting the cord, Satsuki rolled up her sleeves. She attempted to tie the cord around her shoulder, but it didn't go very well. Let me see it. Ayato circled around to Satsuki's back and grabbed the cord. Ayato's arm reached under hers. Just pull this here, and there. She felt something pulling back on her shoulders. Tell me if it's too tight.
Right, it's fine.
The cord crossed in the back and the end came forward. Then just tie it here, and that should do it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Karen's getting real fucking jealous.
Are you ready now?
Karen butted in, clearly agitated. Please get ready too, Nii-sama. I'm ready whenever.
What should I do?
Satsuki asked Ayato. Just wet your hands with the water and knead the clay. Ayato demonstrated by dipping his hands into a small bucket filled with water. Satsuki put her hands in the water as well. It must have been hot water originally, because it was still a little warm. Then just do whatever. Ayato sat next to the basin and started kneading. Satsuki followed him and touched the clay. It was already plenty wet, and touching it easily left handprints on the surface. Her fingers sunk effortlessly into the clay when she pushed down. Enjoying the sensation, Satsuki pushed her hand into the clay over and over again. Try to push out the air without getting it too wet.
Right, I understand.
Following Ayato's instructions, she pushed her palms down into the clay and turned her hand, squeezing the air out of it. She wasn't sure if she was doing it right, but sometimes Ayato took her hands and demonstrated, and that was pretty fun too.
I suppose 3 people aren't needed for this.
Karen suddenly stood. Karen?
You two can just keep doing it together.
Pursing her lips and leaving them with that remark, Karen exited the room.
Did something happen?
Beats me. Ayato was puzzled as well. Yeah. Dense protagonist here, or dense main character at least. At least it seems like he's like the secondary main characters of this visual novel. Satsuki was even more confused by Ayato's confusion. The two of them needed the clay for a little while longer. The clay gradually lost its moisture and hardened.
Is this good?
Yeah, I think so. After this, it's enshrined for a while, and then they give it its shape.
Its shape?
It's a weird shape, like an animal or something like that. Ayato didn't seem to know much about it either. Oh, by the way, Sachin.
What is it?
Satsuki tilted her head when Ayato addressed her again. The normally easygoing Ayato seemed unusually nervous.
Would you, like to go to the festival together?
Didn't he already ask her that?
Oh?
But only if you're still here by then, of course.
Well...
There was no doubt she'd still be here on the day of the festival. However, that didn't necessarily mean she'd be able to accompany him that day.
Then...
Ayato suggested an alternate plan when he saw that Satsuki was struggling to answer.
Do you think we could meet at the hideout after the festival?
After the festival. She could say even less about that time. But Satsuki wanted to meet with him too. It felt quite nice to be invited. However...
I can't make any promises.
That ambiguous answer was all she could offer at the moment. I thought so. Satsuki could see Ayato's disappointment.
I can't promise anything, but I'd still like to try and meet, if at all possible. Really? Yes.
Satsuki nodded at Aito's excitement. It was true that she wanted to meet with him. She would do whatever it took to see him, whether she was allowed to or not. And she knew how.
Let's talk about this again later.
She was simply unable to give him a proper response then. Ooh, a secret rendezvous. Oh. Back to the creepy room. When night came, Satsuki sat down in front of the mirror. She took off the cloth that protected it from dust and waited a few moments.
Something very interesting happened today.
Satsuki spoke first. A little more time passed.
Was it something fun? Yes, very much so. I received an invitation from Rihito-san.
From Rihito-san?
Yes, he said we should meet at the hideout after the festival. But that's when... I know, it's a special day for me, so...
Satsuki's expression darkened.
I'm sure it'll work out.
Satsuki muttered, clenching her fists. Oh boy, that's pretty ominous. Chizuru sat in her room, dazed. Next to her lay her brother Fumiya, wrapped in a blanket. His injury was more severe than she had thought. The damage to the tendons and blood vessels was so extensive that the tips of the middle, ring, and little fingers on his right hand had to be amputated. Jesus Christ! They had to cut his fingers off? Her brother had been planning to follow in their father's footsteps and become a surgeon. The damage to the fingers on his dominant hand had meant he'd no longer be able to hold a scalpel. Of course, So, who'd performed the operation, had said that it may still be possible with training. But the shock had been too much for Fumiya, who was just about to go into his field of study, and he'd been confining himself to his bed ever since the accident. At the time, when So and Nanako had asked what had happened, all Chizuru could say was, "It's my fault." She couldn't say any more than that.
Nissan.
She softly laid a hand on the blanket covering her brother. He twitched, but that was the extent of his movement. A sigh escaped her lips. Chizuru didn't know what to do. All she could do was be by his side like this. But when she thought about what had happened, she wondered if the act of being by his side itself was a burden to him. A deeper sigh than the last. There was no doubt that it was her fault that he had been injured, so she wanted to atone for her sin. But how am I supposed to atone? Chizuru-kun, a moment. She realized Yuzuru was calling for her from outside of the room.
Yes? What is it?
She rose and headed to the corner of the room. You seem to be at a loss too. I'd like to have a brief consultation with you. Is that okay?
Huh? But...
She instinctively turned around. Her brother was still in bed. Wasn't Fumiya the one who needed a consultation more right now? Chizuru herself didn't really. You two originally came here for you to recuperate. This is a part of that too. You don't mind, right?
No.
She agreed. She couldn't help but agree. Entering the examination room, Chizuru sat down at a stool for patients. No, please sit in this armchair. Yuzuru offered her the doctor's chair.
Okay.
The back of the chair was reclined, so Chizuru ended up staring at the ceiling. Close your eyes. Was he going to try to hypnotize her or something?
What are we doing?
Chizuru asked Yuzuru, obediently lowering her eyelids. Don't worry about anything. Relax. Take deep breaths.
Alright.
She slowed her breathing as she had been instructed to. Relax all of your muscles and put your weight on the chair. Yes, like that. I'm going to talk to your unconscious mind now, so I'd like you to just answer me to the best of your ability.
Okay.
She answered, though she didn't really understand. Her body felt warm. It was a very pleasant feeling. It was as though she was about to fall asleep, but she was still conscious, and could hear Yuzuru's voice. On the day when Fumiya was injured, what happened? Yuzuru's voice seeped into Chizuru's body through her ears.
Well...
She was having trouble moving her mouth. Rather, her heart refused to bring the words to her lips. But she wanted someone to hear this. She wanted to confess to someone, to get it off her chest. Relax. The palm of Yuzuru's hand touched Chizuru's cheek. It felt like her consciousness was being sucked up into it. Her whole body trembled.
I hurt my brother.
Her voice was like a sigh, but the words made it out. It wasn't your fault. Yuzuru's words were kind.
Is that true? No, there's no doubt that I was the one who injured him. But I was seducing my brother.
Wow, she actually fucking said it. Holy shit. Seducing?
Yes.
There was no taking the words back after they'd been said.
I love my brother. He's always worried about me, and he came with me on this trip too.
The words just kept coming.
I'm a despicable girl. Even though he's my brother, I led him astray. But then when he touched me, I got scared and then...
I see, Yuzuru said. Oh my god.
Doctor,
Her tears wouldn't stop. You've committed no sin. Yuzuru's kind voice resounded through Chizuru's heart. Well, you were about to commit a sin. you probably are going to still commit a sin, honestly.
But my brother's injured, and he's lost his goal of becoming a doctor.
Being a doctor isn't just about holding a scalpel. My father-in-law is the one who does the surgery here. But I'm a respectable doctor, too. Yuzuru stroked Chizuru's head. I'll talk to Fumiya-kun, too. I'll tell him that there isn't one single path.
Okay, thank you.
You should support him, so that he doesn't lose his confidence.
Yes.
More tears spilled from her eyes. In her scattered state, Chizuru couldn't be sure, but she didn't think they were tears of sadness. Well, Yuzuru's hand brushed Chizuru's wet eyelids. I'll keep everything you told me a secret, so don't worry about anything.
Okay.
She nodded obediently. But it might be better for you to keep your feelings hidden.
But I...
She shot upright and was assailed with a sudden dizziness. Are you alright?
Yes.
Her heart was pounding. Chizuru sat up, her hand on her chest. Looks like it's worn off. Yuzuru gave a small sigh. Ugh.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Do you feel alright?
Not really.
Didn't think so. Let's leave it at that for today. Get some rest.
Yes, thank you.
Is it time for incest-wincest?
Excuse me, Fumiya-kun.
Fumiya was still in bed when Nanako entered the room.
I'm here to change your bandages,
she said with a sigh. The covers lifted and a haggard-looking Fumiya showed his face. Please, leave me alone.
I can't do that. We have to disinfect the wound so it doesn't suppurate.
I don't care.
Come on, get up.
Fumiya didn't budge, so Nanako lifted his upper body into a sitting position. He didn't resist. He extended his arm obediently. She peeled off the plaster at his wrist and unwrapped the bandages. Stripping off the discolored yellowing cotton gauze, she wiped away the grime that had collected under it. Fumiya grimaced now and then, the antiseptic stinging against his healing skin. She then stripped off the gauze covering his fingertips. Black stitches sealed up the wounds. His undamaged pointer finger was the longest, while the other three looked slightly shorter than they should.
This'll sting, so bear with it, okay?
With that preface, she started wiping with a piece of gauze coated in antiseptic. The muscles in his arm trembled. Even so, the fingers on his right hand hardly moved. The nerves were clearly still functioning. Chizuru entered the room.
Chizuru-chan, what is it?
She asked, pausing the wiping.
I can handle that.
Chizuru sat down at Nanako's side.
Alright.
That might be better, she supposed. Fumiya may be more likely to open up to someone in his family, like his sister, Chizuru. With that thought, Nanako left Fumiya's hand to Chizuru.
I'll leave it to you then. Disinfect his wounds and the rest of his hand, then protect the wounds with gauze before you wrap the bandages again. Okay, I understand. Alright then, he's all yours.
Leaving the rest of the work to Chizuru, Nanako returned to the courteous living room. And how's my Nanako-kun's physical condition today?
None of that now, Director.
She chided him, evading the hand that he'd extended toward her backside. You've certainly gotten more slippery. So returned to the doctor's office, cackling.
Are you really okay with this?
Nari asked, looking up from his book.
Well, it goes on all the time.
Want me to talk to him about it?
No, it's fine.
She didn't want him to worry about her like that. Alright, so how's Fumiya-san doing?
I think he's healing well. His index finger and thumb are fine, and I don't think it'll really lead to many problems with his daily life.
But to be a doctor...
Your father said that being a doctor isn't all about holding a scalpel, right?
Oh, I know that. He's living proof, huh?
I think the real question is whether or not he'll be able to get back on his feet.
From what she'd seen a few moments ago, he seemed quite depressed. Hopefully Chizuru will be able to get him back on his feet, Nanako thought, ignorant of their situation. Yeah, I'm sure she will. When Nanako left, Chizuru nervously took Fumiya's hand. His fingers were pale and thin. The tips were cut unnaturally short, however, and black stitches stuck out from them.
Nissan.
Chizuru was responsible for this injury. Chizuru had ruined her brother's future. She wiped each of the fingers, swollen after being wrapped in bandages. The grime lifted from them.
Does it hurt, Nissan?
Her brother didn't answer. That only made Chizuru feel worse. Her brother's slender, graceful fingertips. His index finger was the only one that still resembled them. She polished the nail of his finger with absorbent cotton. Fumiya groaned as the antiseptic stung his middle finger.
Are you alright?
Just leave me alone.
Nissan?
Can't you just leave me alone, Chizuru? I can't do anything anymore with my hand like this.
That's not true.
Chizuru gently gripped her brother's right hand.
I'll help you with anything you need, so please don't give up.
What do you think you can do? Fumiya spat his words. I wanted to follow in Father's footsteps and become a great doctor, but with this hand He shook off Chizuru's hands. Just leave me alone already. Fumiya wrapped himself in the blankets.
But, Nissan, I need to at least change your bandages.
His right arm alone stuck out from the blankets. Chizuru disinfected his wounds, saddened that he wouldn't even show his face to her. She protected his fingers with absorbent cotton and gauze and wrapped the bandages around them. When she finished, Fumiya pulled his hand back into the covers.
Nissan?
Would you leave me alone? His voice came from under the covers.
Okay, I understand.
Unable to do anything more, Chizuru took the antiseptic and old bandages and left the room. Jesus Christ. This is just getting so fucking weird. How is he? So asked her from a chair in the living room when she came in.
I don't really know.
She shook her head feebly. You know, I just realized something, guys. I don't know if you notice it, but she's not wearing a bra. Like, if you look if you look at what she's wearing, like, you can clearly see her breast. I don't think he'll have any trouble after his fingers heal, but I suppose it all depends on his frame of mind by then.
Right.
If he trains them well, he should be able to use them just like he used to, though frankly, holding a scalpel might prove difficult. Yeah, he'll probably shake in his hands, he'll probably slip while he's doing surgery on somebody. He'll probably accidentally just kill them.
This is all my fault.
You mustn't dwell on it. You seem particularly sensitive to emotional pressure after all.
I know.
She agreed, but she couldn't bring herself to feel any better. It was just as So said. Ever since injuring Fumiya, Chizuru had been torturing herself. She had received treatment for it from Yuzuru several times now. However, Chizuru couldn't shake the guilt that gripped her.
Grandfather.
What is it? So asked, giving her a gentle smile.
Is there anything I can do?
Wait, perhaps.
Wait, for my brother?
Unless you're a specialist, all you can do is sit still and wait.
I see.
She nodded, but she couldn't accept that answer. There must have been something she could do for Fumiya. Something only she could do. I wonder what that something could be. Chizuru had been thinking about it the whole time after she turned off the lights and got into bed. Fumiya next to her had been in bed since long before she returned to the room.
Nissan.
She called out to him quietly, but he didn't respond. She looked up at the ceiling and sighed. She couldn't tell whether he was sleeping or ignoring her. If he was ignoring her, she'd be devastated. Chizuru.
Nissan?
Fumiya had sat up and was staring at her.
Chizuru, I'm sorry. No, I'm the one who should...
Flustered after he bowed his head to her, Chizuru sat up and scooted over to him.
It's all my fault. I'm the one who injured you like this.
She covered Fumiya's right hand with her own and bowed her head deeply.
This is my fault. You haven't done anything wrong, Chizuru. But it's all because I pushed you.
If you hadn't, I think something even worse might have happened. Yeah, he was definitely about to do something.
What?
Chizuru raised her head, but Fumiya averted his gaze. I'm glad you stopped me.
Why do you say that?
Chizuru grasped his right hand with both of hers.
Chizuru? He grimaced, so it must have hurt. It's true that I was surprised at the time, but my feelings then were...
Oh, Jesus. Oh my god. Okay. It's just gotten weird. Now we will skip. We will skip this again. Okay, well, at least that's over with.